recorded.
Okay. So who's in charge of it? Because it won't let me confirm.
Oh, yeah. Let me see
Okay.
something right
It
quick.
went off. So it's
You wanna let
recording.
me do- It's recording?
It is.
Okay. But it's something like on the screen. You see something on the screen?
It came on and then it went off. So I don't know why it keeps popping up. Confirm. I don't know why it's doing that.
All right, should be straight now. Okay.
So, is it on the other computer?
Yeah, it should be, I think it's straight now. Dr. Royce, how you doing, Dr. Royce?
Hi, how are y'all? It's Rouse.
It's Dr. Rouse. Hey, I'm glad you, hey, I can be Dr. Rouse. How you doing, Dr. Rouse? Thanks
Very
for having
well.
me.
Yes,
Of course.
we're hooked on phonics, so we had already given you a new pronunciation.
That's all right. That's the usual pronunciation. That's why everyone calls me Dr. Rain, because it's easier.
Hey, there you go, Dr. Rain. Dr. Rain, there you go right there. Dr.
Everybody
Rain.
got that.
Dr. Rain, and you look like one of my cousins too from Jasper, from East Texas. You like one of my cousins, by the way, Dr. Rain.
Oh, really?
Yes, you may be related, for real.
I'm from Houston. I grew up in Houston, but I don't think I have family in Jasper. Maybe.
Okay.
What part of Houston?
From Southwest Houston.
Anywhere near A-Leaf or Sugar Land?
Yeah, so right before Sugarland. So like around West Airport, Gessner.
Over Kempner High School way?
Westbury.
Yeah, not quite out there, but yeah, but Westbury. Yeah.
Okay.
Westbury, got you.
Exactly.
Well, we're excited to have you, and thank you for being on board with us.
Of course.
And so we're introducing her as Dr.
Rain.
Rainey? Rain?
Rain, like rain.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome, Church With Our Walls family. We're looking forward to this special evening for our virtual town hall meeting. I'm like super excited as we look to get this thing kicked off in like 13 minutes and 20 seconds. But I'm grateful and thankful for this opportunity to come before you all. My name is Tyrone Smith. I'm the youth minister here at the Church With Our Walls, and I have a co-host, a co-moderator supporting me with this event tonight as well, Dr. Roslyn Burrows.
Hey there, everybody. It's always a pleasure to be able to come before you guys as a group and learn together as a TCWW community. We're excited about learning and growing together as we just dive into COVID-19, learning more about it and learning more about the COVID vaccinations that are available now from just a few months ago to a very few people to even more and more. So I'm excited about having doctors here, the real experts in the field. We help you guys learn about God, but they're going to help us learn more about our health this evening. So I am truly honored and excited to be here with you guys tonight.
Hey, Dr. Burrows, man, like always, it's truly an honor and a blessing to have the opportunity to actually do this work with you in regards to informing the parents and community as a whole about the importance about being vaccinated. You know, I mean, I know a lot of families and individuals actually have questions in regards to if they should be vaccinated, their children being vaccinated, and all these questions. So family and church members just know that we have two phenomenal doctors that are part of Texas Children's Hospital that we're going to be introducing here shortly. They're really going to speak to any specific questions or thoughts or ideas that you may have about the COVID vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine. And Dr. Ross, one of the things as well, you know, you're working over there with like two different cameras. You have the laptop camera, but your main camera, you're actually going to turn to the number 2 camera to your right. You're going to be turning to your right when we're actually getting ready to go live here shortly. Just kind of let you know a little caveat before we bring everybody in. So you'll be looking into the laptop, but your main camera will be to your over your right shoulder. There you go, in camera 1 or camera 2. All right.
Alrighty. That's good to know. And right now I'm working on sharing to the KWOW Facebook page. I private parent group to make sure that they're able to see what's going on. So if you see me look down for just a second, that's all that's going on. And Mr. Tyrone, I'm counting on you to say to your right if you see me going to my left.
Yeah, you just go to your right so everybody can actually see you. And hey, while we're waiting, Dr. Roz, so who are some of the guests we actually have with us that are representing KWOW? Some of the families that we have with us this evening.
So right now, our special guests are Miss Autumn and her children, Judah and Journey. As a matter of fact, they are some awesome, awesome, awesome kids. They have joined the Church Without Walls during the last 15 months. So they came on during the pandemic. And I'm just excited by their enthusiasm. Week after week, they come on and we're able to share our house with their house as we share God's house. So it's always a blast having them there. They're always eager to learn. We get to see mom and dad sometimes in the background cooking, but each week these guys come on, they have their Bibles, they have their tablets, and they can usually tell us what has been taught on Sunday. So I just love, love, love being able to share God's word and learning about God with this great family.
Thank you so much. We really, really enjoy KWOW. We do the Bible study during the week, and we do the church, and then throughout the rest of the week, we try to read our word and kind of really practice what you guys are teaching them. So we love the extension of family. Thank you so much for all you do, Dr. Ross.
Oh, you're so very welcome.
Yeah, we have quite a few representatives here as well from KWOW. I saw Miss Betty Vaughn as well. I think Miss Betty Vaughn, she's a long-time member. Her and her family been a part of the Church Without Walls for a long time. So thank you, Miss Vaughn, for actually tuning in and just being a part of this virtual experience that we're going to be hosting tonight to get this awesome information and insight and wisdom from two phenomenal doctors that will speak to any anxiety or any apprehension that anybody may have about the COVID-19 vaccine.
And I believe we have our second doctor. Who's that on? I saw someone else pop on. Who's the pretty lady in the red? Uh-oh, I don't hear the audio.
You're on mute.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I'm on the task force, so I have been working with Tyrone to get these scheduled, and I'm really excited because I know how dynamic these doctors are. So,
Are you Miss Miles?
Yes, that's Miss Miles.
All
Yes.
right, it's nice to put a name and a face together. I've seen the emails. Thank you so much for this opportunity to engage our church and our community. We sincerely appreciate it.
So do we. We really love having the opportunity to, give the information that people need so they can make the educated choices that they need to make.
Ms. Miles, we really appreciate your support and actually reaching out to our church to really have this platform to be able to extend, wisdom, guidance, knowledge, and insight to our church members and to families so they can have a deeper understanding about why the vaccine is so important. So I appreciate you, Ms. Miles, for your due diligence. I appreciate you for your support and insight, and I appreciate you for just being open, even when you were on vacation, to kind of help us set this thing up. So you go the extra mile, like 100.
Oh, thank you. It's actually something I enjoy, so I'm here to help. I'm hoping this is just one of many opportunities that we get to work together.
Truly. So we're definitely looking forward to it. We're right about 6 minutes away from actually getting this thing going. And so what Dr. Rosenberg and I, we were going to do just to continue to have some dialogue and some back and forth as we prepare to officially kick everything off. We have Dr. Erica Davis actually coming in as well. And before we actually get going, we have right at 6 minutes and 32 seconds. Yes, 6 minutes and 32 seconds, everybody. We're going to get this thing going. We're going to get it started. Before we do that, Dr. Burrows, are there any other families here that you may want to give a big shout out to before we officially get started here? Do you see any other families?
I don't see any other ones. If they are, somebody speak up and let us know that you are with us, guys. Anybody else out there from KWOW?
Hey, Dr. Davis, how are you?
All right, good deal.
Oh, she looks so much younger in person.
How's it going, Dr. Davis?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm grateful and thankful that you all are willing to support us tonight to inform the people, to give them the wisdom and insight and knowledge that they need to know. So we're truly grateful and thankful for you all just giving your time and your support.
Thank you.
All right, as you
All right, Dr. Burrows, here it is, Dr. Burrows. We have right at like 5 minutes, Dr. Burrows, and 30 seconds to really get this thing going. So let's have like a quick dialogue as we probably actually introduce everybody who's going to be participating with us this evening. For those who are tuning in, my name is Tyrone Smith, the youth minister at the Church Without Walls. I'm super excited to have the opportunity to actually come and share with you all this evening. I have a special co-moderator with me as well, Dr. Rosalind Burrows. How you doing, Sister Burrows? You doing okay over there today?
Just great, Tyrone. It is always a pleasure to partner with you. We've been at it for so many years. I feel like you're the yin and I'm the yang. We work real well together, and I'm excited to have this amazing opportunity to partner with Texas Children's Hospital as we bring more information about the COVID vaccine to our community and families throughout the greater Houston area. So, excited to do this on a regularly scheduled Bible study night. So we're hoping that those of you who are coming in via Facebook, feel free to put the information or any questions you might have as we get started. Just put those in the chat room. We're going to get started in a few minutes, and we'll proceed with those frequently asked questions. The doctors will be here to answer those questions, as well as jot down any questions that we may not cover tonight, and just be ready to ask those as we go along. So once again, thank you, Texas Children's Hospital, for partnering with us, and thank you, doctors, for taking time out of your busy schedules to be with us tonight.
Dr. Burrows, thank you again. I think it's necessary that, we have this conversation so people can actually be better informed. The whole reason why we're doing this, we want people to be better informed, because I come before you today. My mother passed on December 21st, 2021. She had COVID. My father passed 6 weeks later on February the 1st. He had COVID as well. So when you think about what we're going to be talking about tonight, it is really near and dear to my heart. I understand and know the importance. I have an autoimmune disorder, and it was necessary for me to actually take the vaccine to maintain health and well-being. And even personally with my own family, both of our sons, TJ and Tyler, they have already been vaccinated. They're fully vaccinated, and we're very grateful for that. And so not only we're coming before you all today as individuals to give the doctors and Texas Children a platform, this is something as a church, as a ministry, as a team that we actually believe. Our pastor, Dr. Ralph Douglas West, is something he truly believes in regards to the church and the community as a whole really being vaccinated to really attack this virus that's really taking out a lot of people.
Thank you, Tyrone, for being so transparent. I can't think of a single person that I know that in the last 15 months who hasn't been directly impacted by COVID-19 in some particular way. At the same time, we recognize the hesitancy that some may have in getting the vaccine. And so I know that tonight will benefit a great group, both those who have already taken the vaccine and perhaps those who are straddling the fence, not real sure if they should, when they should, or whether or not they should. Like you, Tyrone, it is close to home. I have a brother who I care for daily. Because of COVID-19, I have to see him first thing in the morning, and I have to see him before the day is up. I say have to because if it weren't for COVID-19 and the concern of him catching the virus, we'd have a different healthcare provider providing some services for them. So I say that to say we all have to do our part to prevent the spread of this disease that we know could become deadly for people who have compromised immune systems, or even some of the healthiest people. We know that this is a disease, a virus, I should say, that does not discriminate. Some of the healthiest people I know were affected by it prior to the availability of the vaccine. So it is so important that we get the word out and we can share as much information as possible to ensure that our loved ones do not contract the disease, the virus, and that we're all better together.
The key words you said, better together. One key word you said, better together and do our part. And I think in order for us to do our part, I think it's all about collaborations. It's all about partnerships. And we're super grateful and thankful to have actually formed a partnership with Texas Children's Hospital. We appreciate Ms. Chanel Miles for her due diligence in regards to supporting to make that connection to actually make this thing happen. And we have two special guests that are doctors that we're going to introduce right now so we can get this thing going. Dr. Burroughs, would you like to go first?
We are so excited to have Dr. Rain. We called her Dr. Ross, but I know that's not the correct pronunciation of her name. But we have Dr. Rain here, and she is a native Houstonian. She works actually in the oncology research department. She's done a great deal of work in a cancer center where she spends most of her time researching the disease. So from a different perspective, she has a unique take on the COVID-19 vaccine coming from a researcher perspective. So I know we are going to learn lots and lots. So welcome, Dr. Rain, and thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Rain. Thank you, Dr. Burroughs, as well. And we have Dr. Erica Davis as well. She's an outpatient pediatrician at Texas Children's Pediatrics Heights location here in Houston, Texas. She received her medical degree at the University of Alabama and then trained in general pediatrics at Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. Davis has been practicing pediatrics in Houston with Texas Children since 2008. So she knows what she is talking about. Her and Dr. Rain, they're going to give us wisdom, knowledge, guidance, insight, and their ultimate expert opinion about the COVID vaccine. So Dr. Rain, Dr. Davis, we just want to just thank you all for participating with us tonight. And we want to give you all the floor to just share your thoughts and your insight and just let's get this thing going.
Right. Do y'all want to start with questions, or how are we going to start?
Well, we have some of those frequently asked questions, so
Yeah.
we can start
Can I
with a
just
few
say
of
a little
those.
something first?
Go ahead.
I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to talk to you guys. And as Dr. Burroughs mentioned, I am a researcher as well. So I take care of kids with cancer and blood disorders, but I also have a research lab. And a lot of the research that I do is focused on viruses that can actually cause cancer. And so for me, like all of us, COVID hit really close to home. My brother was hospitalized twice, was on a ventilator, was very, very sick, and we thought he was going to pass away. And thankfully, he survived. But I think every single one of us has a story like that. So for me, as a medical professional, taking care of my patients who are children with cancer who have compromised immune systems, and also as someone who really wanted to be able to learn everything I needed to learn about the vaccine, I made it a point to read every single page of every single document submitted to the Food and Drug Administration to get approval for these vaccines. So I truly believe that people need to be empowered and have the information to make the best decision. And so I want to encourage you all to ask your questions. No question is too silly. I especially want to encourage you if there are specific things you're worried about in specific populations or specific side effects you've heard about, because knowledge truly is power. And I'm happy that Dr. Davis and I are here today and can really give you the facts, the receipts.
Thank you, Dr. Rain. Dr. Davis, anything you would like to share and say to the audience before we get everything started with the frequently asked questions?
Yeah, so it's been a long, how many months now? 16 some counting months. I have been on the community education path for a while now regarding COVID, whether it be through social media, through some of the Texas Children's Talks, other church-based talks. And we have made progress for sure. We still have a ways to go. There is still some hesitancy there, and that's understandable. I think one of the biggest things that we have had to do as a medical community is we have had to engage a lot more with driving the narrative of COVID, because media has done its thing with pumping out information that has caused a lot of discord, and politics has come into play. So I think, this is one of those opportunities where, although a lot of times we get buried in clinical work or research work, we've had to stretch ourselves in other directions to make sure that we have more of the community engagement that we need.
And I think that's what it's about. I think tonight really is about dispelling any myths out there so people can have a deeper understanding about where we are right now in regards to the pandemic and ultimately the vaccine and why it's really necessary.
Absolutely. Tyrone, I know you and I, we've talked about it in private before, but there seems to be a great reluctance amongst, I will say, the generation after us. I know I have 2 grown children, adults myself, and that generation seems to be the most reluctant. And I'm not sure, doctors, do you feel if that's a result of the media? Why do you think maybe that generation is reluctant to go ahead and become vaccinated?
I think it's multifactorial. I absolutely agree with Dr. Davis that this is one of the first times where the media has truly been involved in giving actual health information. And this information, while it may be fact-checked, is often not necessarily accurate. And so when we think about the generation under us that are constantly on social media and constantly on TikTok, constantly on Instagram and Twitter, any information that comes in, that's where you often get your news from. And so I think also the other part is there are historical reasons why Black and brown people are mistrustful of science and mistrustful of the healthcare system. And those are valid reasons. However, what's important to know is because of things that happened in the past, we have so many safeguards that go into development of things like vaccines. And so what I found with my younger cousins who actually go to the Church Without Walls, when they are hesitant about the vaccine, when I sit and talk to them about it, answer the questions, talk specifically about some of the myths, what I find is that they are a lot more open, and some of their hesitancy comes from kind of conspiracy theories they've heard or side effects that they've heard about that aren't necessarily fact-based. So I think we have to tackle it a couple of ways, and that's why I really think that forums like this are so important. I also think it's important to hear from people that you can relate to, right? People that look like you, people that grew up where you grew up, people who speak the same language and can understand some of your concerns.
Wow, absolutely. So here's a question I have. What's in the vaccines? If they all have the same technology, what's the difference between them? And is there one that's better than the other?
They don't have the same technology. Pfizer and Moderna are both mRNA vaccines versus the Johnson & Johnson, which is a virally vector-based vaccine. So two different methods of triggering the immune response. I can't say that any is better than the other. They all have great efficacy. They were tested at different times. So those numbers that you get back as far as how effective they are based on the version of COVID that they were fighting at the time they tested it. So Pfizer's numbers may look super great and Johnson's may look a little bit different, but by the time Johnson came out, we had a couple of different variations going on that Johnson was enacted against. So I can go into detail, or Rain can go into detail about the exact difference between the vaccines, but all vaccines work in a similar way in that they trigger your own immune system to create a response if you were to come in contact with that virus again. And hopefully that response is sufficient enough where you don't even get sick or you get barely sick. So that is the purpose of immunization. And this is the same model that we've been using since smallpox vaccination, during slavery. So this is not a new thing to vaccinate. As I've explained before in other talks, vaccination in the United States, like I said, began with smallpox vaccination, which was introduced by an African slave. So vaccination itself is a process that we introduced to the Western world. And it has continued to be improved. And what we're looking at now with Pfizer and Moderna is hopefully an improvement on previous types of vaccination. So I can't say that one is better than the other, but they all provoke the same type of response from the body in slightly different ways.
Absolutely. And everything you said, you took the words right out of my mouth. And another thing is when you would ask, if you asked Dr. Davis or I early on, because we got our vaccines very early, as soon as they were available, which one we were getting, most doctors would say the one that is available to me. And that is a testament to the fact that all of the vaccines that are approved, there's only one that's approved for 12 and up right now, which is Pfizer, but all of them have the most important number you need to look at is their ability to prevent people from getting sick enough to be hospitalized and for people from dying. So they are all extremely effective, and Pfizer and Moderna are 100% effective against preventing hospitalization in the studies and against preventing death, and Johnson & Johnson is very near. And I want to point out, as a scientist, this is one of the first times where every time you click on Facebook or every time you turn on the news, people are explaining the science behind these vaccines. And of course, it can be very scary because you've never heard of an mRNA vaccine. You've never heard of an adenoviral vector vaccine. This is like crazy scientific Frankenstein talk, right? But these are techniques that we've been using for a really long time. So while the mRNA vaccines were new for COVID-19 vaccines, it's not a technique that's new. And the most important thing that I tell everyone about the COVID-19 vaccines is that they have been tested in clinical trials in so many people, and now millions and millions of people. I just looked today, 100 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine as of like a week ago had been given in the United States, and about 90 million of Moderna and almost the same of Johnson & Johnson. So these are not experimental in the sense that we have lots of data. It is physically impossible for them to give you COVID-19 infection. That's another thing that's really important. I want you to remember what Dr. Davis said. All vaccines work to boost your own immune system so that you can create a response so that if you come into contact with COVID-19, your body can fight against it.
Thanks for that information, Dr. Rain. I mean, that's quality information that everybody needs to know. And I have a question as well based on the frequently asked questions. Like, how safe are these vaccines for kids? Is there a vaccine that's safer for them? We have Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson. I mean, so what would you all say about that particular question?
We're still waiting on the data. They're all being tested as far as dose adjustments based on age. And when they are ready to submit their data, then we'll all get a chance to take a look at it. It'll get approved by multiple bodies, multiple. You think they're strict about adults, they way stricter about kids. Exactly. So it's gonna get looked at before they touch anybody's kid.
Exactly. So they are, the Pfizer vaccine is approved for 12 and up because they have data that has shown that it was just as effective, actually more effective and just as safe in 12 and up versus 16 and up, which was the initial approval. The trials are still ongoing, like Dr. Davis mentioned, in children. There's not, I don't think people understand how many different steps these vaccines go through and how many different approval boards have to go through it. So once there is sufficient data that shows that it is safe and that is effective, that is when that data will be released. So for now, there's only one option for 12 and up, which is the Pfizer vaccine. And it was approved for emergency use because the data showed that it not only was it safe, but it was effective in preventing COVID infection.
And that the risk outweighed the benefit. I mean, the benefits outweigh.
Absolutely.
That's always the biggest thing. I mean,
absolutely,
nothing you do is going to be 100% risk free. You know, getting in your car in the morning is not 100% risk free.
Exactly.
It's 100% risk free, but the benefits well outweigh the risk with these vaccinations.
Absolutely. And so keep everything that you hear about the vaccinations, when you hear about your cousins, neighbors, uncle who had something happen after a vaccine, think about that in the span of the millions of people who've been vaccinated. The other really good thing about COVID-19 and the vaccine is that every time someone gets a vaccine, they automatically get information on where to report any specific side effects. So this is why we're hearing so much about some of the more rare side effects. But in when you look at it in perspective, if something has happened in 10 people out of 300,000 people, that's a very small percentage. So you always have to take the data in context. And if you're worried specifically about a side effect, or if you're worried that, hey, I had an allergic reaction to this, will this affect me? I have this other disease, will this affect me? Most of those things were actually tested in the clinical trials, and you can talk to your doctor, you can bring it up here, and we can actually specifically address these. So don't let concerns that are about something specific that may have a factual answer stop you from seeking out the vaccine for you or your family.
Wow, that's awesome information to know. I'm so glad to hear that now. Ignite families, it's time for you guys to step up. The 12-year-olds and up, that's our Ignite group here at the Church Without Walls. The vaccines are readily available. KWOW kids and families, we're still waiting on the availability for you guys. So my question is, how long does it last? I got my second shot in April. I'm hearing information that's out there that says I'll have to get another shot. Is that true?
We don't know the answer to that question yet. It's always going to be a moving target. This is real time, so we don't have historical data. We have to see how variants develop, how much of if there's escape from the vaccine, escape meaning that there's a variant that comes through that doesn't respond to the vaccine. So far, so good. The variants have responded to the vaccine. Are we having too many, quote, breakthrough cases where people had the vaccine and still got COVID? Are we at the point where those breakthrough cases are significantly ill? So these things are being monitored constantly. That's somebody's whole career. That's a lot of people's whole career. And we are entrusting that body of scientists and epidemiologists to stay on the clock, monitoring this situation, so that when it's time and when they say it's time to redose, that we're ready to redose. So we have production that has to keep going, making vaccines, so that they ever say redose, that we're ready to redose. And it's not like a whole nother 12 months of trying to get it figured out again. So
that's awesome information to know, because like, for instance, I have an autoimmune disorder called ankylosing spondylitis, and I take Humira, which is suppresses my immune system. So I would be considered high risk. So I've been fully vaccinated since March. All right. So I think one of the things as a church and as individuals, we have to be proactive. So I've been fully vaccinated since March for my second shot. I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago to have my blood tested. My antibody count is right about 12. So the vaccine is really still pumping and working in my system, although I've been fully vaccinated for a few months now, because I know there was a third dose coming out we can possibly take in the fall. So like Dr. Burrows, I went to my doctor, told my doctor, they did some blood work. My antibodies are still kicking strong. And so with that being said, what would you say to family members that are actually like waiting, for children to be vaccinated? Do you all have like a general idea maybe when it may be possible for children? Because I know that's one of the frequently asked questions that we've actually had here.
It's on the rumor mill, honey. Sometimes they'll tell you September, October. Then they say October, November. They're gonna have to wait until they get it right, because they're not. How you don't want to turn in, you don't want to submit, and something's not right yet. So it's just like when you build a house, they give you a move-in date, and you know they're gonna move it back a little bit more and a little bit more until they get it right, until they pass all inspections. So,
and I think,
yeah,
I think what's important to remember is the reason why it has not been approved and available for less than 12 is because the trials are still ongoing. So I have several friends whose kids are participating in the trials. That's important, and that's a good thing. You want that to happen. You don't want it to just be, here's your 2 doses of the vaccine, see you later, hope you do well. You want them to follow those kids for a period of time afterwards. So they don't even begin to submit data until at least usually 3 months after. And when we talk about how long the vaccine will last, the interesting thing is lots of people were saying we'll probably have to have a booster. It'll be like the flu shot, but we're nearing right around the year mark from when they first started the trials. And what we're seeing from the trials is that people who initially got the vaccine about a year ago, most of them still have immunity. That's why there's the rumor mill of that, because as physicians and as scientists, we don't want to rely on rumors. We want to rely on the facts. So sometimes you can go to the vaccine websites. If you type in COVID-19 vaccine for kids, they will actually, the companies will kind of give you a little bit of an update about how many they've enrolled sometimes, and that can give you a bit of an idea. I do suspect that it probably will be in the fall. And whether they will do like an 8 years and up, or whether it will be for 3 to 12 years and up, I don't think any of us know until we actually see the data.
And also behind the scenes, sometimes the trials get paused temporarily while they troubleshoot something or check on something or investigate, you know, this patient got sick, let's make sure it's not related to the vaccine. So there's things that are happening. That's why the date of when it's going to roll out is not going to be forecastable necessarily. So at first they were saying we're going to try to get it before school starts again in the fall. That's unlikely to happen. We're just a few weeks away from school starting. So but we are hoping for sure before the end of the year.
Well, that's pretty interesting. I'm a retired school principal, and quite a few of my friends, you know, they're a little concerned about things like the mask mandates going away. You know, we can't require kids to wear masks at school anymore. In fact, I know I'm still wearing my mask. Most of the people here at the Church Without Walls, we still wear our mask when we're out and about, and especially even when we're here at church. What is your take on, I've had my vaccines, but even when I go to visit my brother and take care of him, I'm still wearing my mask. Am I being overly cautious, or what do you think about the mask mandate going away?
It was very premature, especially when we have a population that's not yet eligible for vaccination. I think we should have waited to lift that restriction, especially for the schools, because most of the populations in the elementary schools are not vaccinated unless they got vaccinated in the clinical trial. You are certainly right for continuing to mask, especially if you are indoor in a crowded environment or amongst people who you're not sure if they have been vaccinated completely, which means both doses plus 2 weeks after that. So unless you are completely 100% sure of everybody in the room's vaccination status, and there are no children under the age of 12 who don't yet qualify, you should have a mask on.
All of that being said, I will tell you that the reason that the CDC, so in Houston, our mask mandate was lifted prematurely. I think we all agree on that. The reason that the CDC came out with the guidance that if you are fully vaccinated, meaning you are at least 2 weeks from the last dose of a vaccine, if you got a 2-dose vaccine, that you don't have to wear your mask, regardless of whether you're around vaccinated people or not, is because even if people who they have studied have contracted COVID and tested positive on a test, not because they had symptoms, but because they were getting a surveillance test, even if they've tested positive after the vaccination, they have not been able to show that they were able to spread it to people, nor have they gotten sick. So for me, I wear my mask because I take care of immunocompromised kids. And even though the likelihood of me being fully vaccinated catching COVID and spreading it is extremely low, that's a responsibility that I will do. Lots of my colleagues, when we're in a group inside in a non-patient care area, will take their masks off, because if you were vaccinated, the data shows that you should be protected. I want to talk about this really quickly because, like, with the Delta variant, which is that COVID variant that is the one that's spreading the most quickly now, about 1 in 5 cases of COVID now are the Delta variant, and a lot of those are in children. The Delta variant is definitely appearing to be more infectious, but there's not evidence that it makes you sicker, increases hospitalization rate. In some countries, people that are vaccinated have tested positive for the Delta variant afterwards. And usually that is people who had to get routine COVID testing for work or for something like that, but they don't appear to have gotten sick. I had to say this because I know it's very confusing when the CDC comes out with guidelines and says, now you don't have to wear your mask, regardless of whether you know if everyone's vaccinated. And then you see people wearing them and not. You have to go with your comfort level. The best advice I would give to teachers is, if you are a teacher, you likely are able to get the vaccine because you're over 12 years old, and there are very few contraindications to the vaccine. So the best thing you can do to protect yourself in a classroom with children who are not able to get the vaccine yet is be vaccinated. And I think that's really important, because as I watch the CDC guidelines and watch TV and read the data, I completely understand why people say, no, you should always still wear your mask and be cautious. And I err on the side of caution, so I wear mine. But I also understand the basis of saying, if you're vaccinated, whether you're around vaccinated people or not, you should not have to. The problem in public is you have no idea who's vaccinated and who's not. So I wear mine when I go out in public. Absolutely.
Wow, thank you for that very thorough answer. Mr. Smith, do you have any more questions, or are we ready to open it up to any of our guests?
Hey, I have a question I would like to ask the doctors. Like, can you pick which vaccine you get, or does it even like matter at this point?
It doesn't matter. You can choose a site where you know what they're distributing. But if you show up to that site and they switched, I wouldn't change my appointment. So if you have a preference, like, well, my friend got this, or my mom got this, so I want to get that one too because she did okay with it, that's fine. You can look for a site that advertises what they're giving out. But if you arrive and if they have switched to one of the others, I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to change that.
Absolutely. I echo that 100%. And in most places, even like at our hospital, they will have a certain amount of each vaccine, so you don't necessarily get to choose. I will talk specifically about, I want to be very clear, there are not known contraindications to getting the vaccine, meaning, you know how you see TV commercials for medicines, and if they say, if you have this, this, and this is not the medicine for you. This vaccine is not like that. So that's important to know. There's not data that if you have certain health conditions, you should get one or the other. I will point out that with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, or the Janssen vaccine, that's the single dose vaccine, that is the one that has had a few cases of these clots or blood clots. And I know a lot of people are talking about that. However, even in that 0.08% of cases, meaning literally like 10 cases out of tons of cases, in those patients, none of them had a history of a blood clot. None of them had identifiable things that would have pushed you to say they were more likely to get it. For that reason, people don't need to necessarily choose which vaccine they get based on their medical history, if that makes sense. Okay. All of them are likely to cause some side effects that are representative of your immune system responding the way we want it to the vaccine. So if you have fever, and if you have headache, and if you have chills and body aches, That's not because you have COVID. That's not because the vaccine is doing something dangerous in your body. That's because the vaccine is teaching your immune system cells that, hey, we recognize something that's not supposed to be here, and we need to make some defense mechanisms against it in the form of antibodies, which attack virus, and in the form of your T cells, which are immune system cells that attack. So it's important to know. Some people will be I've met people who will say, nope, I'm definitely, here's a reason to get one over the other. If you know you're going to be on vacation in 4 weeks when your second Moderna vaccine is due, even though you shouldn't be on vacation if you're not vaccinated, if you know you're going to be traveling, don't get that one. Don't sign up for a vaccine that you know you're not going to be able to complete the series. The Pfizer one is 3 weeks apart, the doses. The Moderna one is 4 weeks apart, and the Johnson & Johnson is a single dose. You can imagine why giving a single dose to someone who maybe is unhomed, right? Or someone who is in a situation where they may not reliably be able to return would be a thing. But otherwise, they're not sound medical and scientific reasons to prefer one over the other.
I have this last question. I'm just shocked by what I see on social media with people going on vacations, not wearing masks, having big family gatherings. It almost feels like we're out of the woods. And so I wonder, I won't say I worry because I'm a believer, but I wonder what are going to be the effects of people letting down their guard so quickly.
I think one of the biggest things is that we don't know who is vaccinated in public. We're unable to ask who's vaccinated. That's one of the reasons I still wear my mask in public. It's a respect thing because the next person doesn't know that I'm vaccinated. So just for everybody's comfort level, for me, I tend to wear vaccines. Now, if you go to restaurants, your servers don't have on masks anymore. Even if you're eating outdoors, you have to assume or hope that they're vaccinated. So it puts everybody in a little bit of a place of discomfort as we start to move around more, even if we're moving around, externally. And yes, I'm vaccinated, but my 6-year-old is not vaccinated. She's sitting at the table with me. So the same things when we go on the airplanes. It's the effect of all of this. It is, we know that we still have COVID. We know that it is potentially it is still spreading, but we have the Delta variant that's, kind of on the rise now. We're starting to see more cases of that. But overall, we will have to see our hospitalizations are down now.
Exactly.
That's a positive. So we will have to see what the impact of vaccination has been over time when we look at serious events, when we look at how many ventilators are in use, when we look at ICU capacities. So we will have to see what the impact is. More so, we have to back up and look at it over the weeks, over the months, what the total impact is of our change in behavior.
I do think that we have more than enough evidence because the masking mandate has been gone for a while in Houston. If you are vaccinated, even the current vaccines, all the data shows that they do protect against the Delta variant. You are probably protected. So it's a thing where if you are somewhere and you see a big crowd of people and they're like, that gives me palpitations. I'm like, what are they doing? COVID is still here. And I'm concerned about them because I know not everyone in that crowd is vaccinated, right? I still have my mask on, just like Dr. Davis said, more out of respect and comfort. But it's not that I'm so concerned that I'm going to get COVID. I'm just concerned at the optics of these huge crowds of people and that someone within there is not vaccinated, or perhaps that someone was vaccinated, but perhaps did not make as good antibodies, like my immunocompromised cancer patients. And so they're still at risk. And so I think the most important thing we can do, we take our personal responsibility, but then we take responsibility for everyone around us. So my colleagues that have children are the same way, where even though the data shows that if they are fully vaccinated, they are extremely unlikely to get the Delta variant and pass it to their child. We have not had COVID-19 for that long. So the data right now shows that. Whether the data will always show that, like Dr. Davis is saying, taking a step back. So erring on the side of caution is there. That being said, if you and all your family members have been vaccinated and you haven't seen your grandparents in forever and y'all want to have a family gathering, that's the beauty of being vaccinated. That is the beauty of being vaccinated.
All righty. Thank you so much for those in-depth explanations for the questions that we've asked. Mr. Smith, Tyrone, if you don't have any other questions, maybe our guests who are on, do we have any questions?
I actually do have a question. So I have an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old. We chose to keep them home. So they've been home with us since March of 20. They have each other. They're 14 months apart. So school wasn't a big deal. We go to a great school. So it translated well. However, knowing that besides physical health, mental health is just as important, we are allowing them to go back to in school in August. Their school does offer for them to stay out, but we want them back in school. So my husband and I are trying to decide the whole mask thing. Because we created a bubble in our house for the last year and a half, they're not really used to wearing masks because they really didn't go anywhere. They did everything in the backyard or in our subdivision. And I'm afraid that are they going to physically be able to wear a mask all day? And even if they do, they're children. They're going to touch it. They're going to move it. So what risks are going on? And by the way, my entire family who lives with me, who lives in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, everybody's vaccinated who can be vaccinated. And so we believe in a vaccination. It's just not available to our children yet. And so I just kind of wanted to get some advice from you guys as far as when August 16th hits. Am I sending them to school with their sandwich and their mask and knowing they're going to throw that mask to the side? Like, what am I doing?
Well, I'm in the same boat. My child was virtual for this entire school year. She's the only child. So this summer I decided it's time to get back, it's time to go back. The adults are vaccinated. We will be the most likely to get seriously ill if she were to bring COVID into the house. There is always still a risk, just like there's a risk of her breaking her leg on the playground. So she had to go back, but she's pretty good about wearing a mask. And it's something that they have to practice. So you can start doing it in increments where I used to have her watch it for when she let her watch TV, and she would have to wear a well-fitting mask, and then I let her pull it down on a commercial break and then put it back on so she could start practicing wearing a mask. You want one that's well-fitting. If it's flopping around on their face while they're talking, they're gonna take it off. So you're gonna have to find the mask. This has taught me that everybody's face is not shaped the same, because I went through so many N95 mask fittings at Texas Children's, you would not believe that I have the strangest shaped face in the world, I guess. So that you have to find a mask that is well fitting and it's comfortable around the ears, the ear part especially, because if it hurts them or if it's moving, they're gonna be more likely to take it off. And you have to also have see how the classroom is set up. If they're going to be, less than, I think they're using 3 feet apart. If they're going to be less than 3 feet apart from a classmate, then for sure it needs to be kept on. You can ask the school what the spacing is going to be for lunchtime. And also, generally when they're outdoors, most of the times, even during the mask mandate, they took them off when they were outdoors at play. Because it's like literally like 9,000 degrees when school first starts and they go outside to play. So I would start practicing in small increments around the house and practicing finding the right mask for them too.
Thank you.
Age should children wear masks? I know we have children in elementary schools who were used to wearing masks, so I'm used to seeing children kindergarten and up wearing masks. Is that the norm, or should we consider putting masks on children who are in daycares as well?
Good luck with that. You can try it, but it ain't gonna last about 15 minutes. So.
Yeah, I think the guidelines are kind of like 5, 6 and up. You don't want it. A 2-year-old So as an oncologist, I'll say this, I'm a cancer doctor, so my patients are very accustomed to wearing masks, even outside of COVID, because they're immunocompromised. So it is possible for a 2 or 3 year old to be trained to wear one if they have to. For COVID situation, I would say you choose your battles. And I would not choose the battle of trying to fuss with the 2 or 3 year old to put a mask on. I would reserve it for the older kids. And just Judah and Journey's mom, just so you know, you've done everything to put your kids in the best possible situation to keep them safe. I think it's great that they're getting ready to go back to school. And I think just like Dr. Davis said, you practice, you're well-intentioned with the mask, but don't worry too much if you get a report from the school that during some part of the day they didn't have it on, because that is going to happen, because we all, we're adults and we still struggle with it. So we meet them where they are.
And I think about it like this. I kept my child out the whole school year. She's going back. Well, she is back now. Catching COVID in 2021 is different than catching it in March, April of 2020, because we didn't know what was going on. We have changed the way we treat it. We have options now. We have space in the hospital. So being treated for COVID now is not like it was when everybody was, it's a different situation now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you both. That's great information. Thank you.
Hey, I have a question as well. I have a question. We keep hearing the term like herd immunity. What does herd immunity mean for those who are tuning in tonight?
Well, it means, as far as immunology, that the more spaces, if we have a circle full of people and we have one person in the middle who can't vaccinate or the vaccine doesn't work, then hopefully we have enough people outside of that wall who are sufficiently protected doesn't get in. So it's, we can shield each other in a sense. For the ones who are not able to mount immune response, for the ones who aren't able to get the vaccine, but you got to get your numbers up to get to that volume, right? And so if COVID is around, but 80% of the people or whatever number they want to use is vaccinated, then it can only move so much before it dies out because the rest of the people are vaccinated already. Are we at herd immunity? No. Are we going to get to herd immunity? It's not. We've gotten to herd immunity a couple of times during other epidemics, with polio, with the measles, we got there. But that was under a different system where it was more mandated and less of a choice. And now that immunization is more of a choice, we are looking at getting toward containment, which we might already be at containment. So there's a difference between containment and herd immunity.
And I think you can think about herd immunity in the sense of your circle and where you move. So when we're at the hospital or we're at our doctor's office amongst colleagues, over 90% of the people that I work with are vaccinated. So if we're in the doctor work area or if we're in the lunch area, we know that we have reached herd immunity there, right? Within your church family, your goal can be that you have herd immunity within your church family, but we have much less control over herd immunity within the United States, right? So that's why when you see these reports, and they talk about the Delta variant, they talk about specific cities and specific states that are more at risk, where they may only have 25% of their population vaccinated, whereas in Houston, we're around 50% or so. So that number will always be a moving target. But try to think of it on a smaller scale as far as your herd around you, the people at your child's school, the teachers, the principal, the people around you at church, the people in the youth group, because that's something that we're more likely to be able to control.
I'm glad you said what you said about 90% of the people that you work with. I think on the news we've heard that hospitals like Methodist Hospital had developed a mandate that all of its employees be vaccinated. And I guess in my mind, I was thinking that's everybody, but am what I'm hearing now meaning that not all hospitals require their employees to be vaccinated? So
Methodist is the first hospital to have done that. But what I will say is that even at Methodist, Exodus, prior to that mandate, over 95% of their employees are vaccinated. So at most hospitals, the great majority of people are vaccinated. A mandate to vaccinate every person is a little bit different. So I think that most places are hoping that they don't have to take that step. Healthcare professionals are in a bit of a different situation, right? Because we're taking care of the vulnerable. So that's something that, you know, is beyond, I think, Dr. Davis's and ours pay grade. But when you see those things in the news, I don't want you to think that there's like 50 or 60% of people that are not vaccinated. The vast majority of people that work at hospitals, from the doctors and the surgeons to the people that help clean the rooms and make sure our patients get their food delivered, are vaccinated.
Man, thanks for sharing that awesome information. I mean, like, question I want to ask both of you doctors. We appreciate you all tremendously again for supporting us tonight. You know, there's always a reason why we do what we do in life. If somebody was to ask me, like, Tyrone Smith, why did you get vaccinated? I mean, I would say Jetty Catherine Smith. I would say Harold Smith. I would say many members who've actually been a part of our church who we've lost this past year and a half or so. So I just want to ask you all the question. Why did each of you all get vaccinated?
Risk versus risk benefit. You had to look at what the options were. To not get vaccinated in the middle of a pandemic, to me, for me to be able to provide healthcare, for me to be someone that people are coming to me to feel better, to potentially put them at risk, knowing that I had the option to not put them at risk, would be against my first do no harm, you know. So that was something that I was going to do. I took the vaccine to get rolled out. I did it on a Friday just in case I didn't feel good. So I did it Friday that it was available, and it was an uneventful. It was so uneventful that I even get the thing, because I didn't have no soreness or nothing. I was like, what's really going on? So it was an uneventful process for me. Did I hate half a second? Because, you know, I have that non-doctor too. But it was a brainer for me well before it rolled. I was like, I'm definitely getting it. I got it the first week. I kind of like sat around the house the next day trying to see was I going to feel something, and every person is different as far as how you feel after vaccinating. But for me, it would be negligent for me to not vaccinate, knowing that I am exposed to patients in one room that might have it, and then go to another room to take care of a well infant, or, you know, a teenager or whoever else. So with the amount of contact that healthcare workers have with the virus that is unavoidable, you definitely need to vaccinate.
Absolutely. And I think from the beginning of the pandemic, it became very clear that while this virus does not discriminate against who it infects, absolutely similar to many other health pandemics and disparities, it disproportionately affected Black and brown people who look like us. So it was very important for me to set an example. But I also, every decision that I make, I have to make for the patients that I'm taking care of, who are getting chemotherapy and have no immune system and don't have the ability to protect themselves. And so I did lose patients early in the pandemic, when people kept saying that kids were not really affected and kids don't get really sick, but I take care of a different population. And then I've had very personal experiences. Like I said, my brother almost died of COVID. So I was so ready for the vaccine. I felt like it was my Christmas present. I was like, sign me up. And after the first shot, I did not have any symptoms. After the second shot, I did have some flu-like symptoms, but I was so excited as an immunologist, because I was like, look at my immune system. And so I was super excited about that. And it was well worth it. And at no time did I ever think that the risk outweighed the benefit. And that is after reading all of the pages of every document that was submitted to the Food and Drug Administration, because I wanted to be able to dispel the myths. I wanted to tell people exactly what to expect. And I wanted to be able to break down the science to people that really wanted to know the real deal in plain language.
Righty. Is Journey and Judah, are they still around, Miss Autumn?
They are. Come here, guys. It's dinner time, and you see Nana in the background. I don't put up a fancy screen. You get what you get with us. But but yeah, Dr. Ross
Quite
had
all
a
right.
question.
I just wondered if Judah or Journey had any questions that they'd like to ask the doctors or any of us, or share with us what you guys think in terms of what you've been going through as a kid. We always talk as adults, but here's your chance, Judah and Journey, to tell us what you think about COVID-19, what you guys have been through, and any questions that you might have.
Who wants to go first? Go ahead, Judah. Slant.
I don't have really any questions, but I'm saying one is that I think we don't have to wear masks though until we're actually 12.
See, kids always want to embarrass you. Oh,
Is
okay.
that the rule, Judah? Is that the rule? Are you sure
That
that's
was a good try.
Nice try, Judah. Nice
I'm
try.
saying you should get it till you're 12 because you get the vaccine shots until you're 12.
Right.
But that's more reason that you have to wear your mask because you have to wait till you're 12. And that's at least, how old are you? 8 or 9?
9.
So that's the 3 whole years right now, although you probably will be able to get it sooner. But nice try, Judah.
And just for the record, they didn't go anywhere, and when they did have well-fitting masks.
Oh, I'm sure.
Breathe into and wet up and everything.
Listen, y'all told Judah this was his chance to ask the question or say what he wanted to say, and he took his shot. So
Don't ever give him the floor. Journey, what about you, babe?
I have no questions.
Or are you ready to go back to school?
Yes.
Okay.
Journey,
anything else
about
to
what
say?
you've heard tonight, does it make you feel a little bit better about going back to school? Are there any questions you have about going back to school?
I mean, do you need to wear a mask when you're at school?
Yes, Judah. Yes. You need to wear a mask until we tell you don't have to no more, okay?
we know you can do it. We know you can do it, Judah.
So
I can do it. I wore a shield until 4 o'clock.
Well, good for you.
She goes
a
to
shield.
acting camp, so she has to talk, so they wear shields instead of the mask.
Okay.
So you
Love
heard it from the doctors, and I'm so glad you brought that up, Journey and Judah, because you are going to hear out in the media or even at your schools when you go back next year, they're going to say you don't have to wear a mask. But we're saying to you as a church and as a family and with doctors who know, you do need to wear a mask. I would rather be extra, extra, extra safe than be really, really, really sorry. So I want you to promise me, Journey and Judah, that you're going to wear your mask and be an example for your friends and your family.
Are you guys going to wear your mask to school in August?
Yes.
What about you, Judah?
Sure.
Praise God. Thank you. I can breathe a little bit easier.
Dr. Burrows?
As long as it doesn't itch.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said as long as it doesn't itch.
Well,
We're gonna have to send some masks to Judah for him to try out.
Yeah, try Happy Mask, Judah. Look at that brand, Happy Mask.
Happy mask? Okay.
Get
We'll
that.
look into that.
Okay.
I gotta say what brown
and guess what, Judah and Journey, for being our special guest tonight, I have some TCWW masks I believe I can get my hands on and send them to you guys in the mail. How about that?
What do you say?
Thank you. Thank you.
Tyrone.
That acting class is paying off. It's funny.
Oh, and Cinderella got the role of my fairy.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I wanted to tell you, I saw that there was a question on Facebook and they wanted to get some information on the vaccine and future pregnancy.
So the American Academy of OBGYN is advocating for the vaccine. Of course, you see on social media, there's been some conversation before about fertility and the COVID vaccination. If you track down the source of where that all started, it's not a credible source. It is definitely recommended. If you think about the fact that, pregnancy is a hypercoagulable state, meaning you're sticker anyway, right? We don't need anything else to be going on during pregnancy that's going to cause fever, that's going to be associated with blood clots or anything else for the protection of both mom and baby. So it's definitely okay to vaccinate against COVID. Many of the women who have, of course, were in the trial have gone on to get pregnant and have babies. Lots of pregnant women have been vaccinated while they're pregnant. There's even been one documented case where a baby was born already having received some antibodies through the womb. So there is no contraindication related to fertility, future pregnancy regarding the COVID vaccine.
And there is absolutely no evidence that any of the COVID vaccines cause infertility at all, not in the present, not in the future.
I predict with all this being isolated that there's a boom in the babies this year.
There has been. I'm a witness to that. Business is good.
Goodness. All righty. So, Mr. Tyrone, if you're still there, are we ready to close out?
Yeah, ready to close out. Again, Miss Chanel, Miles, thank you very much for really making this thing happen and collaborating with us at the Church Without Walls. So on behalf of our pastor, Dr. Ralph Douglas West, and the Church Without family team, we appreciate you for just making the connection, as well as you, Dr. Rain, and Dr. Davis.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All righty. So again, on behalf of the Church Without Walls, we thank you, Texas Children's Hospital, for partnering with us to be better together. It is our humble prayer that in the near future we'll all be together soon. Until then, we certainly want to remind everyone to take heed to the warnings and the information that you've heard tonight from our doctors, and we want to thank you for getting the word out there that the vaccines are readily available. This is an opportunity for us as a church to evangelize God's word and information to let others know that, yes, we have faith that God can heal any disease, any virus that might be out there, but likewise, He expects us to operate from the knowledge that we have. So that's called wisdom. So we encourage you to get the vaccine, become more informed so that you can make a decision so that we are all better together. All righty. So, Mr. Smith, Mr. Tyrone, if you will, close us out in prayer, and then we'll say goodnight to everybody.
All right, good deal. Let us pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we just come before you, just thank you for this day, this moment, this time, this opportunity, Father God, to give wisdom and knowledge about the COVID vaccine, Lord. I thank you for the partnership that we have here at the Church Without Walls with Texas Children's Hospital. I thank you for Ms. Miles. I thank you for Dr. Davis. I thank you for Dr. Rain, and for just extending themselves onto us, Father God, to just inform our church, our congregation, and the community as a whole. I ask you just continue to watch over us and keep us collectively in all that you will have before us, Father God. And we know that in all we do, Father God, it's about being accountable to one another, Lord, but ultimately accountable to you in our life and our love that we're given to live, Lord. And in all things, Father God, we give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Better together.
Hey, better together, better together. Have a good evening, everybody. Get vaccinated. Keep it going, and remember to mask up.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
The recording has stopped.
All right, good deal, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Dr. Rain.
Oh, no
For just
problem.
thank you very much for. I mean, it was well informed, good flow. I mean, quality information. I mean, it was easy to hang on based on how you guys were communicating everything. So thank you again, truly.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. And I think Chanel got off, but we're always willing to help with any of your health ministry needs. I lead community outreach at Baylor College of Medicine in the Medical Center. So we do lots of community outreach. So if you ever have health ministry needs and you need someone to talk about anything, we can identify folks who speak just like us, where we can, break it down in regular language and talk to whether it's adults, elderly, kids. We're happy to partner with the community. That's so important to us.
So we're going to take you up on that offer. Who are your relatives who attend the church here? We might know them.
So Versailles Stapleton and Antonia